I appreciate that. So, if you caught the special report I did last week on Baal and the Baal arches, right? No sooner had I finished, uploaded it, put it out, and someone sent me a little link to something. I went back in to go back and reread. And I went, oh, wait a second. And I went off down the rabbit hole again. So here's the thing. This is the crazy part of this. You have, behave. You can be grounded. That's what it is. You go in, and the article that I was really featuring in the special I did last week was talking all about the company who's making the 3D arches, 3D carving replication of the arches. And there's there's a lot of glaring facts in that report that just go, what are you actually trying to say? But one of the big ones is, it says in the article, they started carving the Arch of Baal, 2 months ago. So 2 months ago, they started carving it, but then all of a sudden they changed it to the Arch of Triumph at the last minute, literally at the last minute, and that arch is supposed to be set up today. There was a lot of other stuff in the article too, if you went back and read it. But this one, you go, wait a second, 2 months? And the Arch of Triumph, like I said, there is no Arch of Triumph. Historically, there's no discussion on Palmyra of an Arch of Triumph. There is the monumental arch listed prior to October 2015, but there is no Arch of Triumph. So it made me go look down the rabbit hole of Arch of Triumph. So you have the Arch de Triomphe, which is the big famous one on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Well, guess what? The history of triumphal arches is pretty freaking interesting. So I'm going to screen share here and take you over to this because this is seriously crazy. Give me a moment. Okay, hold on here. Hold on, guys. Just let me set my screen up. I didn't have my screen set up the way I usually have it set up for this. Okay, so you go to a list and we look at triumphal arches and the history of how they started. So triumph arches are exactly what they supposedly are. They were set up to memorialize, a big battle, a win, a new emperor, all of this kind of stuff. So you go through and you start looking at these damn arches, okay? And you go through, and there's shitloads of these Arch de Triomphe, and they all have a very similar look to them. And you have, what got really interesting was the timing. So you have all the Roman era, Roman Empire Arch de Triomphes, and there's a shitload of them that are built all over Europe, all over the Middle East, all over the Roman, everywhere the Roman Empire touched. But then you go and look at post-Roman Empire arches, because apparently, you see, they started rebuilding arches again. And what's really interesting is all the post-Roman Empire arches weren't started building, and the earliest one is in the 1512, but they're all built from basically the 1600s onward. So you basically have 1100 years where they didn't build any triumphal arches anywhere. So we go back to this whole thing about history again. We talk about how they've inserted 1,000 years of time. This is one of the things for me. I go, oh, so they built them right up until 400 AD, and then they stopped building them until the 1600s. Like they completely forgot how to build an arch. And then all of a sudden in the 1600s, they started putting out shitloads of them. And take a look, right? Again, look at the design on them all. They are all very, very similar. Well, here's the big thing. So in the alternative media, they made a big deal about how, oh, there's going to be no Baal Arch in New York. No, they canceled it. We won. There's going to be no Baal Arch in New York. But now there's going to be a Triumph Arch in London. Well, guess what? New York already has an Arch de Triomphe. It is an exact copy of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. An exact copy. So I'm going to show you this picture here. So I put together a little amalgamation of pictures. So this first one up here in the upper left, that's the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. This is the Arc de Triomphe in New York City. It is an exact replica. Oh, but what's really, really interesting is up until September 11th, 2001, if you stood on the one side of the Arc de Triomphe in New York, perfectly framed in the middle was the Twin Towers. Perfectly framed in the middle was the fucking Twin Towers. So we go back to the report where they say they were going to put the Baal arches up. Now, if you look down here in the very middle picture, that is the Arch of Baal. The one next to it on the left is the purported Arc de Triomphe, or the monumental arch in Palmyra, that they now say they're putting in London. They're vastly different. You can't copy one to the other. It's not like they could just, okay, we're going to start building the Arch of Baal. We're going to have to change this. We'll just knock out a couple of extra pieces and turn it into the Arch de Triomphe. It doesn't work that way. They're radically different arches. So I go back to that news story, the original news story that broke and went everywhere about how they're going to put the Arch of Baal in London and in New York. And then they were going to put them in cities all over the world. Well, they don't need to, because it's not the Arch of Baal, it's these triumph arches, and they're already all over the fucking world. And I mean everywhere, from Russia to China to Africa, South America, you name it, the Arc de Triomphe are everywhere. So you go through the whole thing about arches. And it goes back to what the big research I was doing in January, that time outside of time between winter solstice and January 1st. And I was talking about Janus, which is this Roman god. And he is the god who is above all other gods. He is the god that you have to pray to before you can go to any of the other gods. And his symbol is the arch. He is the god of archways. He's the god of time and passage and portals and doorways and gateways, etc., etc. And you sit there and you go, wait a second. Down here in the bottom left is the Janus Arch in Rome. This is the archway of Janus, this god. And then over here we have the Arch of Augustus and the Arch of another Arch of Augustus. And these are all exact replicas of the Arch of Titus. And the Archway of Titus, the original Archway of Titus, was the first arch that commemorated an emperor claiming himself to be God. And if you look, all of these, the Arc de Triomphe, everywhere are modeled after the Archway of Titus, claiming himself to be God. So we went in, and I started going back down to the rabbit hole of Janus again. So I want to just give you a couple of little pieces on this. Hold on, give me a second, guys. Here we go. So we go up here, and here we go. Janus has no specialized priesthood assigned to him, but the king of the sacred rites, the Rex Sacratorium, himself carries out his ceremonies. Janus had a presence in the religious ceremonies throughout the year and was ritually invoked at the beginning of each one, regardless of the main deity that was being honored for the occasion. And what's really interesting is when you get, hold on, I just go scroll, here we go. Janus is the origin of time as the guardian of the gates of heaven. Jupiter himself can move back and forth because of Janus's working. In one of his temples, probably the Forum of Helortium, the hands of his statue were positioned to signify the number 355, the number of the days in the year, and later 365, symbolically expressing the mastership over time. He presides over the concrete and the abstract beginnings of the world, such as religion and the gods themselves. He holds the access to heaven and to other gods. This is the reason why men must invoke him first, regardless of what god they want to pray to. He is the initiator of human life, of new historical ages, and financial enterprise. According to myth, he was the first one to mint coins. Now, the other symbol of Janus is the key. He held a key because he was the passageways, the doorways, etc. Now, at the same time, there was a goddess, because in most of those religions back then, remember, there was always the masculine and the feminine, and that was Cybele. And Cybele also had a key. Hers was the key to earthly portals. His was the key to all heavenly portals. 2 keys. Where do we see the 2 keys? All the time. And that's the keys of St. Peter for the popals. In every papal insignia, you see the 2 keys crossed. The Vatican keys. Except those are the keys of Janus and Cybele. So we go a little deeper, because now I'm just like, okay, this is just getting way wild. Going through all this information of where, for example, the first word, I can't remember the name, Korea, I think was the original name of Cybele, is where they get the name cardinal. Cardinal means the hinge, which is exactly what she was to the doorway. She was the hinge to the doorway. You go on and you start looking, and all of a sudden I go in and I find this document called The Two Babylons, and they basically very nonchalantly state that Janus is what is biblically known as Lucifer. I know, I shit you not. You can't just make this shit up. It's just, we said that. I'm telling Lisa, you're not going to believe this. Janus is Lucifer. And we just have this sad moment. You go through it, and then you start looking at all the other stuff. And of course, you go down the Lucifer hole, and you have the fact of the morning star. The only time Lucifer is ever mentioned by name is in Isaiah, and he's the morning star. The only other person in the Bible ever referred to as the morning star is Jesus Christ. Refers to himself as the morning star. Okay? Are you seeing how fucked up we're getting here? And then you open up the whole question. You go, oh, the Vatican has the biggest observatory in the world that just happens to be called Lucifer, and they're continuously looking outwards. All the Vatican observatories studying the stars because they're waiting for something to return. Lucifer, Jesus, Janus, triumphal arches, and they're all over the world. All over the world. So here's the thing. I actually posted this on Facebook, and I had kind of a giggle with it with Lisa. And it was like, they plan on putting a full-size reproductions of the Arch of Baal, now the Arc de Triomphe, in New York and London and in cities all over the world, leading me to wonder if sometime in the future our grandkids just will accept these arches of Baal without questioning, what are they or why are they here? Just saying. And we have the obelisks everywhere. City of London obelisk, Washington Monument obelisk, Vatican obelisk. What are they there for? What were they built there for? What's the reason behind these? So yeah, that was my my little adventure down the whole Baal Arch de Triomphe, and I'm still looking at it because this book, The Two Babylons, is major. I've just downloaded the PDF and I need to go through. But yeah, the Arch de Triomphe, which is going into London apparently today on the 19th, along with all the rest of the bullshit. Yeah. So yeah, that's why we're having a party. Ha ha. And I'm going to go hop over with Lisa now.